All right, let's talk about trust in relationships. So trust can be a tricky thing sometimes, right? Because not only can we hurt trust in our current relationship, but often people bring trust baggage from past relationships into new relationships, which makes it difficult to trust, not because of anything the person's done, but because of stuff that's happened in the past. And at the same time, trust is one of those things that takes a lifetime to build often and can be destroyed in a moment. So in this video, what I want to do is address trust and rebuilding trust, because here's the reality. We all fall short. We're all going to have moments where we break trust in a relationship, so we need to develop the skill of how to rebuild trust. And in this video, I want to give you 5 keys to rebuilding trust in a relationship. That's today on RelationShots. Hey, welcome to RelationShots. My name's Eric Wooten. If this is your first time hanging out with us, welcome to the place to get practical relationship advice that actually works in your relationship. So if you've not already done so, go ahead and click the subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss upcoming videos. If you want a free guide to intimacy, you'll see a link in the description area below. You can download that. If you need a place to continue to be intentional in your relationship, especially when we're talking about this topic of rebuilding trust, you often need a community to support both you and your partner when you're in the rebuilding trust process. Our Altered Marriage membership is the perfect place for you to get that community and resources to strengthen your relationship and maybe even rebuild after an instance of infidelity or some other breach of trust. So let's talk about this idea of rebuilding trust. I would say this first. If it's a much easier to rebuild trust after a one-time instance of dishonesty, or maybe a season or area where it's tied to that, as opposed to somebody who just has a pervasive pattern of dishonesty over and over and over again. I would say this: if you're dating and you have a partner that has a pattern of dishonesty, I would encourage you to either pause or end the relationship. That person is not just going to, quote, grow up overnight and stop something that has been a pattern in their life for a very long time. That's going to take quite a bit of time to unpack, to understand why, and to develop new patterns. If you're married and it's somebody who has an ongoing pattern, I would just highly encourage you to seek some counseling. This is not something that'll just, hey, step 1, 2, 3, and then we're good to go again. But what I want to talk about today is just in what would be, I would say, an instance of dishonesty, or a short time period surrounding something. So maybe infidelity surrounding that dishonesty, where generally they have not been dishonest. Maybe it was a financial decision they were dishonest about, but not something that's a pervasive pattern. Even obviously with infidelity, I would encourage you to seek some counseling to help walk that process out so that you can do it in the best way possible. But if you're talking about an instance of dishonesty and trying to figure out how to rebuild trust from that, I just want to give you 5 keys that we can all use to rebuild trust after trust has been broken. This is necessary in every relationship. Listen, there's going to be times we break trust, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, but we need to know how to rebuild it. So the first key to rebuilding trust is take full responsibility. Right? Don't blame anybody else. Don't blame some outside circumstance. It can be, I think it can be natural to start looking for the whys and try to figure out whys. And it may even be that your partner is a person who's not real safe, and so they don't reward your honesty. I've done a whole video on that, so you can check that out. But even if that's the case, now is not the time to start talking to them about you weren't honest because they make you pay every time that you are honest, and so you've been avoiding it. Listen, take full responsibility. You can have some conversations later where you can talk about the safety of the relationship and why that may have encouraged you to be dishonest, but you made the decision. You were dishonest. You have to take full responsibility for that. If you don't take full responsibility, I promise you, it will be almost impossible for your partner to even consider starting to trust again if there's somebody who seems to make excuses, doesn't take ownership of it. So key number 1 is just take full responsibility. Key number 2 is evaluate yourself. Get to the root, get to the why. Why is it that you lied? And I know someone may be watching this right now and go, oh, I know why they lied, because they're a dirty liar. That's why. But I'm not saying that. Every person may have a different motive for being dishonest. All dishonesty is not the same. Some people are dishonest to brag or look good. Think about like fishing stories, right, that are never true. Some people are dishonest because they're avoiding conflict. Some to get acceptance. Some to avoid rejection. Some for fear of losing a relationship. And then obviously there's others that are just hurtful, selfish, and evil. But there are lots of different possible motives. And so part of you getting to the root of why you do the things you do, we got to understand what it is. And if there is some things that need to be dealt with, we need to heal from those, because that's the only way. We can say, oh man, I'm just never going to do it again. But if you don't deal with the root, I promise you, you're going to end up doing it again. So like if it's fear of losing the relationship, there may be some codependency issues that you need to deal with. If it's fear of conflict, then you need to learn how to step into conflict and how to have conflict in healthy ways. If it's a fear of acceptance or rejection, then you got to deal with some of those self-worth issues, and you got to be good with the fact that you can be honest and they may not like everything that you have to say or think in a relationship. So you've really got to evaluate yourself if you're going to get to a place where you don't repeat the same patterns. If you don't know why you do it, you will not be able to prevent doing it again. So you need to evaluate yourself. Key number 3 is you need to commit to unwavering honesty. When you're trying to rebuild trust, one little lie, one little omission will undo all the progress that you've made. So there's got to be a commitment to say honesty at all costs. And I would say not only honesty, but over communication at all costs. Because sometimes you may just leave some details out, but that person, because they're in a place of not trusting, are going to believe the worst, and you leaving details out, they're going to attribute to you being dishonest again, not to you simply forgetting. So there's got to be a commitment to over communication, a commitment to honesty at all costs. You got to make sure that you don't leave any details out that may be important. You got to make sure that you always address things. You got to make sure that you're honest, even if they may not like the honesty, even if you think the being honest may lead to punishment for you again. There's just got to be a full commitment. At all costs, I'm going to be honest, because being honest every single time is the only way to eventually build trust back. Key number 4 is you need to be patient. Listen, rebuilding trust takes time, and that's frustrating. Because you may say, I know myself and I know I'm being honest now, and I need you to know I'm being honest now, but it's going to take them a lot longer than it's going to take you. And getting them to, quote, hurry up and just trust again is not going to go very well in your favor. Part of being patient is showing that you empathize with the hurt that maybe you've caused them by being dishonest, which will also be a trust-building exercise as well. So do not push them to just hurry up and trust you again. Be patient. They're not going to trust you for a while. They're going to doubt things. They're going to question things. Any gaps in time or story, they're going to obviously assume the worst right now. That's part of the process. Don't get mad about that because you broke trust. So be patient. And the 5th key is just be consistent. Right? We can all talk a good game, but consistency over time is what rebuilds trust. Because trust is not always just a factor of lying. You can also break trust by not being consistent to your word. You say you're going to do something and you don't follow through. That breaks trust. Right? Or you start something, but you don't finish. That breaks trust. So you've got to be consistent in all things. Be consistent with your honesty. Be consistent with keeping your word. Be consistent with showing up. And as you're consistent over time, trust will rebuild in the relationship again. So I've heard many people say that trust is like a vase that once broken, you can glue back together, but it's never the same again. I disagree. I think that trust can be rebuilt back to where it used to be before there was trust broken if we understand why we did it, if we're willing to look at ourselves, get healing if there needs to be healing, develop new patterns and behaviors, and become consistent in those new patterns and behaviors. I fully believe that you can have a relationship with full trust again, not some broken vase that we're sort of trusting, but it'll never be the same. That's kind of a fatalistic view of relationship. You can rebuild trust, but it does take new patterns, new behaviors, some healing, and some consistency in the relationship. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Maybe what are some things in a relationship you were in where trust was broken, and some specific things that really helped you to trust again. That way we can all learn from one another. Drop a comment below. And again, if we can help you in any area of your relationship, maybe it's a class or membership, maybe an upcoming retreat. We would love to connect with you and walk with you in your relationship journey to help you strengthen your relationship. Until next time, I'll see you right back here on RelationShots.